We have Mickey in New York. You are on live with Matt and Dr. Josh. How are you?
Hello, both of you. Hi, Matt. Dr. Josh, it's a pleasure to get to meet you. You've chosen such an interesting profession to pursue. I can't express the interest. It's such a good thing that scholars like you are still around. And, it's just really good thing, I guess. And a beautiful background. I'm a huge fan of beautiful backgrounds that you have there. Really displayed well everything. Matt, I hope you're wrong about the Super Bowl prediction. I'm sorry to say. I really hope you're very.
I find it funny, Mickey. So this is what's funny, and my apologies for interrupting before you got there. But so Mickey is a theist caller who, according to Call Screener, isn't going to present evidence and seems to be more upset that I predicted that the Chiefs will win than that I don't believe in his God. So welcome to the show, Mickey. How can we help?
No, I just said you're going to. Yeah. So I want this, I guess, call to be productive. Basically, I will be defending a specific thesis that I'm going to present right away, so we're not unclear about anything, and I'm just happy to offer definitions. So basically, I will be arguing that theists, and I'm going to explain everything, the words in a minute. Theists are rationally justified.
Can I ask one question real quick? Have you called in before as Canadian Catholic?
No, I don't believe I've ever called in this show. This is my first time.
Really? Because like everybody is saying you're Canadian Catholic, including the screeners.
I have never called this show before.
You do realize that we can see the numbers and the web IPs and that sort of stuff?
Yep. And
okay.
I've never called this show before.
All right. Well, congratulations. You have fooled everybody into thinking you're someone you're not. So continue.
I don't know what that's about, but yeah. Well, I'm going to be arguing the following thesis. Theists are basically rationally justified in believing in God. So a bit of definitions here. I'm going to be using theist as someone who accepts the proposition that God or gods exist. So I don't think it has anything to do, at least in my case, about personal. I mean, I'm not going to be addressing the personal psychological state. I'm simply going to be defending this position that theists are rational and justified. And I will be using definitions of God that obviously I can't use the ones that are mutually exclusive, but basically most theists, at least classical theists, would subscribe to. And I believe that there's multiple reasons, but currently I will be...
Instead of wasting a lot of time telling me what you're going to do, how about you just do it?
Yeah, basically, I believe that the cosmological arguments demonstrate that we as theists are rationally justified in holding a belief in a self-sufficient first cause. And I'm more than happy to give a formulation if you want to critique it. So basically, the formulation grants the PSR, which is that all contingent facts require an explanation and a cause. Second premise is this cause, the PSR relation can't go on to infinity. Premise 3, there is a necessary non-contingent cause that explains all contingent propositions. Conclusion, we're justified in believing in a self-sufficient first cause. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Sorry?
Oh, I just thought all you did was call in to state your piece and that was it. So I thought we were done.
No, but I mean, do you
because you haven't presented any evidence. You haven't shown what is or isn't contingent. You've just thrown out an argument that you're convinced of. Well, congratulations. I'm not convinced. I reject your premises. I see no point in wasting further time on it.
Oh, just a second. I'm giving a deductive argument. So deductive.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Your argument may or may not be deductive, but you've asserted things as true that you haven't demonstrated.
Which premise do you deny?
Well, I didn't write them all down. So premise one, what's premise one?
Premise 1 grants PSR, which is that all contingent facts require a cause or an explanation.
Well, okay, if you're going to, well, that's silly because of course, by defining something or declaring that something or showing that something, I suppose, is contingent, then yes, you are necessarily describing something that has some explanation for it. But that's in the second please stop interrupting me. The second you say that X is contingent, you are saying necessarily X has some explanation for it. That's what contingent means, that its origin is not of itself.
Okay, that's wrong because there are brute contingent facts that most philosophers accept. So PSR denies brute contingency. Are you going to defend brute contingency?
No.
Then what's your objection to my deductive argument?
So your first premise is just defining that some things are contingent. Now,
no, that's defining that all contingent facts are contingent, not contingent, have an explanation, which is the principle of sufficient reason. Do you deny the principle of sufficient reason?
You just said all contingent facts have an explanation, did you not?
Yep, and that's the PSR.
Can you just answer yes? Because I'm trying to get to somewhere. When I said that contingent facts, by definition, require an explanation, you said I was wrong.
Yeah, you are wrong because brute contingency is specifically what's believed by those who reject this formulation, the Leibnizian PSR, because they accept that there are facts that are contingent and brute, and that's to just reject the PSR. But you seem to be conceding the PSR, which, again, is a trouble for you because then the deductive argument seems to justify my conclusion.
I'm not. I'm saying that your first premise basically just defines contingent. What's premise 2?
Okay, premise 2 is that this causal relation cannot go on to infinity because of the Graham-Reaper paradox that the infinitist is entailed to. And premise 3 is, thus there must be a self-sufficient first cause, and we theists call this God. And since this is a deductive argument, if the premises are true, conclusion necessarily follows. So there is no escaping.
Well, you think that it's see, you don't just get to rush to assume that your argument is sound. Are you going to keep interrupting me? Are you going to keep interrupting? Because now I'm absolutely convinced that you are who you say you're not.
I apologize. Please go ahead.
Nope, we're done. Call in some other day. All right, moving on. So the principle of sufficient reason, while it is an actual philosophical notion, you can read more about it on one of the many websites, covering philosophical things, including at Stanford, et cetera. It's also a controversial principle, which, when you stick it in, could be used to turn an otherwise valid and sound argument into one that is not particularly sound. And by stating, essentially, your argument is, for PSR contingent, this is the case, and we can't go on in infinity, which means that your premise 1, his premise 1, is not in any way connected in terms to premise 2. There's a major term for a syllogism. You have a major term, minor term, and the connection. Well, PSR contingent, those terms don't exist in his second premise of this claim that we cannot have an infinite regression. Now, first of all, an infinite regression is a ridiculous way to do this because, as far as I'm aware, time doesn't go backward. And we can't just start marching backward in our head and reach a problem and pretend that that problem is somehow a stopping point. The truth is that no matter how things began, they're going to progress in a certain fashion where if you start to rewind time in your head, you're going to get to a spot where things either don't make sense or where you don't have an explanation because we can't look at that. PSR's principle of sufficient reasoning, by the way, but you can look that up and look up more.